All right.
Hello, world.
Glenn, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Hello there. Welcome to the Music and Arts Facebook page. We are live today to talk about an interesting topic. It's choosing your first drum set. And this is the second installment. Yesterday, we talked about picking out your first guitar. Today, we're talking drums, and tomorrow, we're talking pianos. So definitely stay tuned in all week to talk about this important topic. And at the surface, this topic sounds very, very easy. Pick out a color you like, pick out a configuration. But if you're not familiar with various configurations and all the ins and outs of the parts and pieces of a drum kit, this discussion is definitely for you. Today, we've invited my good friend from Nashville, Tennessee, Mr. Glenn Karuba. Thanks for being here a lot, Glenn.
Thank you for having me, Tony.
Very quickly, Glenn, can you tell us what your role is specifically at Pearl?
Yes, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Pearl Corporation, Nashville, Tennessee. I've been with Pearl for better part of 20 years now, so know a lot of the ins and outs of our industry and certainly the drum industry, that's for sure.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks. And this topic, as we were talking a little bit earlier this week about getting everything set up for this, it's something we've been drummers, percussionists for such a long time. And it's second nature for us to realize, okay, if I get a drum kit, I know I need a throne, I need a stand, I need to get heads, I need to get pedals, sticks. There's so many ins and outs. So this is definitely built to cover all those bases. And I kind of had to make sure going through my own checklist that I'm going to cover everything well. But we have a really, really good comprehensive list of things to talk about. So for those of you just joining, welcome to the Music and Arts Facebook page. We're live to talk about choosing your first drum set, and I'm joined by Mr. Glenn Karuba from Pearl USA. So my first question to you, Glenn, which is really simple, is why is picking out a first drum set such a crucial decision for anyone that's maybe a parent buying for their child or an adult who's ready to begin a journey as a musician?
It's a great question and something you need to take serious when you are entering into this for the first time, for sure. The most important thing that I've seen especially with younger students that are taking on for the first time, and they're not necessarily sure if this is something they want to pursue, they want to get into music, they take on drums, and if a drum set as an instrument doesn't perform and react well enough right away, it's very discouraging for a first-time drummer to stay with it. And that's understandable. So as you get more up into the professional lines, you've been working a long time as a drummer, you can make adjustments and things and know how to tailor your instrument to work for you. But coming right out of the box, right out of the gate for the first time, if you don't have that experience, it's very important that everything works properly, sounds properly, and it's not discouraging, it's encouraging for that first time player to want to continue playing.
Yeah, for a kid who's learning their first on their own, they may not be too familiar with sounds or tone colors of the different instruments. Right. And tell me your opinion. I definitely have mine, which I'll get into, but I want to hear yours first. What are some of the dangers or really just apprehension about buying used as far as a drum kit goes for your first drum kit?
Sure. It's, when you buy something used, and I'm sure there's plenty of great used drum sets out there, but if you're not in the know of what you're buying, and it's very easy for you to finally get everything home or to your practice facility or whatever, and you are, you uncover missing parts and pieces. That's very common, or something doesn't operate quite as you envisioned it would. But when you get something brand new out of the box, you're ensured that right away everything is going to operate and perform exactly as it's intended to do. But you're not missing little pieces, you're not missing parts, and a lot of times you're not getting a complete drum set, and that's a big part of it as well. So at Pearl and most other manufacturers, you have an opportunity to buy something where it's a one-time buy of everything that you need, as opposed to going, oh, I forgot, I don't have this with this used drum set, I'm missing this cymbal stand, it didn't come with a throne, or I'm missing a part or a piece from a drum that now I have to go back and find the parts for. So there's all kinds of little pitfalls.
Yeah. Can I show you something real quick? I was going through my various drums, and can you tell anything that's wrong with this picture about this drum? Just
yes, good luck tuning that one, Tony, with one lug missing there. I can see.
Yeah, so
Good tension rod.
I didn't even realize, and I've moved a couple times over the past several years, so it just fell off. But if I were to sell this drum kit to someone who didn't know and they can't get a proper sound out of it, that's discouraging to a new musician. They can't tune the head properly. If the shell is round, which that's the first thing, right? In order for a drum to sound good, is a round drum is a happy drum. And
Yep.
you have to have your head on, you have to have all the tension rods. Because now if I were to buy this as a new student, I have to worry about, what is this thing called? What size, there's different lengths for different types of drums. I have this issue that I didn't even know I had. And chances are you're not even going to find out that that's missing until, you get a little bit more acclimated with your kit. And you notice something when it's time to change your heads. You say, okay, this one's missing, or where did I put that one? And now you've got a problem on your hands before you've even really begun your journey, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and you brought up another good point too. Sometimes you won't notice something because you don't have an opportunity to really examine the product until you take a head off. But a shell could easily be out of round if you buy maybe a used kit or something that's been mildly abused. And another part of that, not only is the shell it needs to be in round, but the edges need to be flat. So if you turn the drum upside down on its edge, it needs to be completely flush and flat. And if it's not, the drum head won't seat properly, then therefore you won't get it to tune properly. It doesn't tune properly. It doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good. It gets discouraged. So there's all kinds of pitfalls there that sometimes you can't visibly notice right away.
Yeah, good point. And not to mention, whenever you buy something new, doesn't matter what it is, it typically comes with some kind of manufacturer warranty. I assume that's the case with basically every new drum set you purchase. That's correct?
Yes, yeah. The majority of our goods we have a lifetime warranty on all of our drum and combo products. We really are proud of that. We have very, when I say very little, I'm talking fractions of a percent of anybody that has a warranty claim, because our drums and our instruments are built to last. Yeah. And we stand behind it. So we're going to offer you a lifetime warranty when you buy any of our Pearl combo products.
Yep. So basically, in a nutshell, you don't have to inspect the shells. You don't have to inspect the hardware, the cymbals, the wing nuts when you buy new. It's that kind of, it allows the student to start their journey very fresh and with everything that they need. And the importance of keeping it simple to start, let's talk about that for a second. So a lot of new drummers coming up in the world, they may see their favorite artist and see what elaborate setups they have. And those are so cool. I mean, who wouldn't want to play on a 18-piece kit that you have to spin around in a circle to play around in? But for a beginner, that's not really necessary. So wouldn't you say that keeping it simple to a 4 or 5 piece setup at the very most is going to set yourself up to begin your journey best?
I totally agree with that. For the most part, I'll use Pearl as an example. You have an entry-level category of products and drum sets, and you have more of a professional level of drum sets. And inside that entry level, you have a good, better, best series of drum sets. Roadshow being the first step into that series, and then when you get to the professional level, there's another good, better, best that you can get at that point as well. But you should probably look at getting something that's more in tune to your playing style and where you're at the level of your experience. So if you're a student just starting out, you're not necessarily going to need that super high-end drum set to start out, because there's a lot of nuances and things that you can get out of that kit that you might not be adept to right away, but you're going to get to that point. So you want to get something that's going to match your performance level, your playing style, your experience. And if you're just starting out, we have a whole catalog of instruments that will fit that level for you.
That's good. One of the things I was going to ask about with just starting the journey in general, we were talking about, and by the way, let me do a quick re-intro. If you're just joining us, my name is Tony. We're on the Music and Arts Facebook page talking to Glenn from Pearl about choosing your first drum set. If you're just joining us, we're going to save this on our page, and you could look at the timestamp here now and watch from the beginning up until now. We just brought up a couple fantastic reasons why to buy new with your instrument. Really doesn't matter what it is. And for drums, it's basically to make sure all the parts and pieces in there. You don't have to inspect anything. Manufacturers these days have a great warranty. So that's kind of where we left off. And now, Glenn, I want to get into some of the specific things you were talking about. You mentioned Roadshow. So tell me what a complete drum kit really includes, because you see when you start looking at different websites, you see a lot of different configurations and colors and things that are included and things that aren't included. So tell me what the difference is between, say, a set of drums that only comes with the drums themselves, and then a complete kit that comes with everything that you would need, and then if there's anything in between there.
Sure. So a complete drum set is going to be the shells. The shells are going to be the complete drums. I can see it over your left shoulder there. So, the complete drums are going to be exactly that. And the shells is sometimes, that's the term that you say, a shell pack, or the shells. Those are the drums themselves. Typically, the shells are going to be comprised of either one rack tom or a suspended tom that I could also see over your shoulder there, or two, with one floor tom as well, and a bass drum and a snare drum. So 4 or 5 shells is very normal in a popular configuration. Then you add in the hardware. That's the supportive metal pieces that will hold up all those drums, and of course the cymbals as well. So you have cymbal stands, you have hardware to mount the tom-toms and the snare drum. And then down on the ground where your feet go, you have, of course, the hi-hat stand and the drum pedal. And that drum pedal is something that we should get into in a little bit as well, because that's a very, very important and integral piece of not only your playing, but the feel. And we talked about being discouraged or encouraged, and that could be a very important part, is that pedal. But all of those things together is that complete drum set package that we're talking about, the shells and the hardware, and in a lot of cases at an entry level price point, the cymbals as well.
Yeah, got it. And not, so kids and students are not all one size fits all. So there's a couple different kits out there that are made for different age groups. If you're getting a standard drum kit and you can't reach the pedals, what's something that a maybe even more beginner would need that's in a much younger age group? Can you tell me about what options are available with that?
Certainly. Yeah, so a lot of drum sets will use Roadshow again as a great example. The shells are usually centered around the big mama, that's the bass drum. And we have small bass drums for which we call the Roadshow Junior, which is going to be for your single digit kids out there that are just starting out, they don't have necessarily the reach as maybe a young teen or somebody that's getting up into that level. But even when you get into like the regular Roadshow size drums, you can have an 18-inch bass drum with a 10-inch rack tom or suspended tom. And then you have a 20-inch bass drum with, again, a little bit larger toms. And then when you get to a full-size 22-inch bass drum with standard size toms. So you have several different configurations within this series that can adapt to, anybody's size or playing style.
Got it. Yeah, that's a good point. So we talked about a lot of different parts and pieces. And if you're just joining us, thanks for tuning in. We're talking about choosing your first drum set. We're going to keep this page on the Facebook page when we end, so you could start from the beginning and watch up all the way up until this point. So we talked about all these different parts and pieces. Are you able to shop for complete kits or add-ons or just acoustic shell packs, they call them? What is the best option always for a beginning drummer that has nothing, a complete all-in-one kit, would you say?
I think that's a great place to start as a complete all-in-one kit. It's turnkey. You don't have to figure out what kind of add-on options or anything like that I need to bring into the kit. It's at that point, if you want to add another cymbal or two and get another cymbal stand or an auxiliary snare drum or add another component.
Now you're building your rock kit. Now you're building
it out, right? So all of that,
all these together behind me and see what we got, and
right, then you're ready. Crown, flaming gong, all that stuff.
That's right. Now we've been getting a lot of those questions from customers that aren't able to browse in the stores just yet about when they've been able to come into our stores and shop with the sales associate that knows the product in the stores really well. We're finding all this information we need to give to people about how to start, because they're starting from scratch, and there's a lot of great resources out there. To begin shopping, but I think this kind of helps break it down and kind of answer some of those questions, like we were talking about going on eBay and looking for something that was in an attic for 30 years and it's all rusted out, and then what kind of solution is that for a new beginner player? What kind of inspiration can they get from something that's rusted out and doesn't sound good from the start and isn't in the color that they want? I mean, even though it is what it is, but hey, that can mean a lot to a beginning drummer that doesn't want a red drum set. They want a black drum set or a blue drum set. I know I was definitely like that. So you were talking about setting up all these different parts and components. That's really important. What resources has Pro created either recently or in the past that can help drummers get started with either setting up their kit, anything like that? They get these two big boxes that show up at their door, they bring home, now what, basically, what do you guys have anything that could help people, get started quickly?
Sure. Yeah, there's a great website that we created called myfirstdrumset.com. And it has all of these resources from setup videos, how to tune, and also it's done by some pretty heavyweight professionals out there as well. So, we have Ray Luzier from Korn, Nate Morton from The Voice, and a bunch of others out there. So if you get a chance to go to myfirstdrumset.com, it'll walk you through all the steps and basics from going from out of the box to set up, ready to play, and taught by the pros in the industry. So I highly recommend that. I also want to mention and use this lead that you mentioned about the parts and pieces and some of the pitfalls of possibly buying used gear. And I wanted to talk to you about the drum pedal, because that's a big part of it. You talk about something could be rusted or things like that. And if you're a first-time player and that drum pedal is lacking adjustment or it's rusted, or there's pieces, and there's a lot of pieces and parts in a drum pedal that if you wanted to explode it out, you'd be surprised on how many different parts there are. But if one thing is out of whack on a drum pedal, it could really discourage someone from really taking up drums. A lot of times everybody focuses on the hands and stick techniques with their teachers on the onset, but the feet are sometimes neglected. And then if you can't get that the bass drum and the hi-hat operating in conjunction with what your hands are doing, it can really be discouraging. So having a brand new drum pedal is also very, very important as part of this piece.
Yeah, definitely. So along with that, would you say a teacher to teach fundamentals especially in the early stages would be of most importance? Even you have your practice time and you come home and you're working on things, that a song you like, but would you say having a teacher to kind of guide you along that way would be one of the most key aspects of, growing as a musician?
I think so. That's certainly a big part of it. And just simply the ergonomics also of your instrument. That's something, as far as drum sets go, I think a lot of teachers can spend a little bit more time on as well. A lot of times it's a lot of just the technical aspects of it, but listening and playing along are certainly fantastic things that you need to do.
Yeah.
But also, I'm using your example of your drum set that's over your shoulder right there, and you can see how everything is just proportioned perfectly.
That one.
Yeah, not the cake stack, but the other one. But just noticing how everything is in a proper position, and noticing how the floor tom and the snare drum, which are the two lower drums, are in a nice level line, slightly angled, and that first rack tom is in a perfect spot, hi-hat, etc. And having that correct positioning is something that I think can be brought up more in overall education, certainly in the onset, is that proper ergonomic position. And as you grow, you're going to have to change your setup as well.
Yeah,
and
let me ask you. So
that's another thing too.
Yeah.
We're talking about, beginning students, but I can tell you this: once you get past a certain age, like I am, and you can't lift your arms up as high as you used to, there's also those adjustments that you have to make as well.
No doubt. So let me ask you: you've traveled the world. You're a professional musician. You've been everywhere. How long did it take you to get your setup solidified, or has it never really been solidified? It's changed every few years as you've grown, or as you said, you can't reach as high, so you're bringing this cymbal a little bit closer towards you.
It's evolving. It's ever changing, and and it's just talking about bringing a cymbal down low versus up high, and maybe earlier on in my youth, I would have it a little bit higher up where I'm reaching, more above my head. And then as you get older, it's getting a little bit easier to keep it down here nice and low.
No, that's funny. That's
Will
funny.
Kennedy, who's a fantastic artist, plays with the Yellow Jackets, a Pearl artist, and he's a good friend. And his setup at his point in his career, which he's as a veteran can be in music, and as long-standing member with the Yellow Jackets, every time that I see him, whether he's performing live with the group or doing a clinic or something, his set is completely different. He's always challenging himself to how he can reconfigure the drum set just to create something unique and change his voice up. So even at that level, it's not something that you have to be totally restricted to. You can always be modifying and changing your rig.
Yeah, I think that shows you that even someone like him, tour again, like you, he's toured the world, he's played with everybody. He's still learning himself. And I think he probably has a lot of great teachers in his past that he can attribute to things that he might have tried. And now he's the pioneer of these things. So just a quick segue on that for anyone that may be interested. It's tough to take lessons right now, but Music and Arts does have an online option that is set up to take. It's a fantastic roster of university trained musicians that have been doing a phenomenal job with teaching online. Of course, being in person, we'll get there eventually, but, we're doing a fantastic job of setting people up with online lessons via Zoom. So if you are interested on that, please visit musicarts.com/lessons, and we'll get you set up with an instructor who does phenomenal job in getting everyone to keep their chops up, to keep everything going. I mean, if they're not in school, you need to stay challenged. Like you said, your teachers were a big part of your career. They certainly were for me. Everyone kind of needs that guidance, even us old guys, I suppose.
Old guys, I like that.
Yeah. So talking about content, can you tell us a little bit about either within these past few weeks, what Pearl has come out with recently as far as content wise, and what you guys may have coming up in the next couple of weeks planned?
We're doing Instagram live feeds from some of our top artists every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I believe, in the afternoon. So just go to the Pearl Instagram page. If you go to our pearldrum.com page and on our homepage on our website, you'll have all the links to all of our socials up in the upper right hand corner there. But on Instagram, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're having top pros doing a very cool Q&A session similar to what we're doing right now. We have a lot of those same pros are also doing lessons on their own, but there's a lot of great content there. And if you go on our Instagram page as well, we are also doing some fun. It's a trading force thing where you're actually able to submit 4 bars of your favorite groove or whatever, and we're going to splice it all together and stitch it together and make some cool.
That's really cool. That really challenges you. Put yourself out there to show what you've been working on instead of kind of hiding in the corner and
Exactly.
Eating nachos or whatever. Nachos are great, but you got to play, you got to practice, you got to keep the chops up. I'm trying to do as much stuff as I can, just given the situation and just making sure that I don't start at zero when we come out of this, kind of stuff like that. So on the topic of online lessons, do you have any advice for drummers taking lessons online as far as, making sure, things are set up properly? Anything that you or your artists, within Pearl organization have let hey, this is what I kind of want my students to do as far as preparation goes?
Yeah, it's evolving quickly in these past few weeks, obviously, and there's more of that content that's happening, and as far as the platform of teaching nowadays. So, it seems like Zoom and Skype, even FaceTime. These are the platforms that are a lot of our heavyweights are utilizing for teaching and just using the best quality that they can as far as the cabling, whether it's HDMI and videos. But for the most part, it's that simple as how it's being delivered and what you can do to prepare. But I think from however the teacher is going to ask that you have your setup set up, because they're going to want to be able to see your appendages and your hands and your feet and how they're working. So I would just be, there's a lot of little accessories that you could have, whether you're using an iPad or a phone or whatever that you want to have it to where it's accessible to. You can move it around. We've been experiencing that as well, giving some of these Q&A sessions to where you want to be able to see what said drummer is talking about and just being able to manipulate the camera easily. So if there's one way to answer that question, I'd say make sure that you have an ability to move whatever device you're using quickly and easily in case the teacher wants to see what you're doing.
It's all involved with preparation, though. When you say it's just like you're practicing what you're supposed to be practicing from your last lessons, getting the camera set up, all these things, it's basically the same thing, making sure you're prepared. That's essentially the name of the game, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please don't waste your teacher's time. When your lesson starts, make sure you have all that ready to rock.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. No different than you would want to do that. Excuse me. If you're with a teacher in person, you still got the same 30 minutes. We're teaching online. Instructors have to go from student to student pretty quickly. So the more time that you have to take to set something up or angle it to where you can see yourself, that's less time that you're going to get with that instructor to keep growing and learn all these things that you practiced the last couple of weeks, wouldn't you say?
Exactly right. You're exactly right.
So that should about do it for us. I don't see any questions in here, but as always, if you need to reach out to us, you know how to. You could go to our Facebook page. You can go to our website. Definitely want to, again, for anyone that may be interested or know someone that's interested, Music and Arts has a fantastic roster of trained musicians that are doing online lessons in a phenomenal way. And if you want more information on that, please visit musicarts.com/lessons, and you fill out a short form and we can get you taken care of and get you set up with an instructor at a time of day that does very, very well for you. Glenn, anything else on your side? I think we had a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Thank
We
you.
didn't play drums, but you know,
Yeah, we talked enough drums though. That was good.
enough drums.
Yes.
And cool. Well, thanks again, everybody. Glenn, Mr. Glenn Karuba from drums, appreciate you being a part of this. This week we covered picking out your first guitar. Today we covered drums. Tomorrow we're going to cover piano. So please tune in as my fantastic colleagues cover a bunch of different instrumentations and making sure we got everyone covered and do a fantastic job. So please keep tuning into the Music and Arts Facebook page, and we wish you all well.